Hello from Alicante, Spain. I am Jennifer Sontag. I am founder of Via Monde. And here with me today is Guillermo Iso, Abogado Guillermo Iso. And we are going to be talking about the recent Constitutional Court decision that was released on July 31st and how that impacts our community and what is coming next. So, Guillermo Iso, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for letting me be here. I'm very glad to be here.
Wonderful. So, um, the the chat that we're having tonight is Cheers and Chats. So it's about 10 o'clock, and we're here. Cheers.
Cheers.
With a nice rosé, and let's get started. So, Guillermo, this Constitutional Court decision, did it have a direct impact on the Tajani decree of March 27?
Well, it didn't, in the sense that the decree remains totally in effect. However, this ruling is making it much stronger any of the arguments of iure sanguinis that are being posed in court. So for the future, this can be used. All the content of this decision will be able to be used as arguments in all the ongoing cases. So that's fantastic.
That's great. So there was no direct impact, but to clarify, the decision does challenge this Tajani decree and make it maybe a little easier for attorneys and applicants to challenge this current.
Definitely, because this ruling comments many aspects that are also part of the Tajani decree. The question about the retroactivity of the law, or the question about how these rights can be protected on the effective link, how this link is not necessary to be so direct, so demonstrable. There are many ways that the content of this Constitutional Court decision can be used all the time to challenge the constitutionality of this new decree.
Okay.
However,
So what makes this significant then? Why is this a significant consideration and a significant decision for descendants?
It is very important because for the first time there is a comprehensive decision that touches everything concerning the iure sanguinis citizenship in a constitutional court decision. So this is like the first time that this is reviewed in a very long and extensive way to create a doctrine that can be used by the courts.
And so let me clarify that, right? This is the first time that the Constitutional Court has looked at iure sanguinis, correct? Not just this decree, but it's the first time the Constitutional Court has looked at the entire prospect or the entire law surrounding.
That's right. There were very marginal rulings concerning the iure sanguinis, but this is the first one that really takes the whole of it.
Excellent. So, in other instances, right, the other courts that have looked at this, we have seen the great Brazilian naturalization. That was not undertaken by the Constitutional Court. Who looked at that?
That was the Corte de Cassazione. The Corte de Cassazione is like the American Supreme Court, in what is like the superior, the highest ruling court that doesn't deal directly with constitutional questions.
Okay, so in the U.S., right, we have the Supreme Court that looks at both constitutional questions and the way laws are enacted. But in Italy, am I correct in assuming this is sort of split between two different courts?
Yes, the Italian system is more like the German system. So this constitutional court sits at a higher level in order to protect the application of the Constitution versus pre-existing courts that deal with more the day-to-day interpretation of all the laws.
Great. And so, can I add one more chord in there? What is the United Sections?
So it's called United Section because you have different sections of the court, and that sometimes they may give different opinions. But this one, because it's united, it means that all the sections are together, and whatever they decide, it links and is binding for all the court as itself. So it's the most jurisprudence giving decision when it's given by the whole court.
Interesting. Okay, great. So let's get back to this decision and Iure Sanguinis with what do we do now, right? So let's refresh. What's required to be eligible for Italian citizenship according to this specific decision?
Well, that's very interesting that you ask because here the only question that is important for this is the status filiationis, that is the status of the child. Being a child as such is the one that is enough. So as long as you are descendant from uh, from um,
An Italian born.
An Italian-born citizen, you still keep the right. It didn't put any kind of limitation to that. So that is the first time that this is cleared once and for all.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. Did they not say that this right is acquired at the time of acknowledgement of the parentage? Meaning not from birth of the womb, but the moment that the father signs acknowledging that yes, I am an Italian. I This is my child, right? This is the
Yes,
installation. Can you explain that a little more?
yes, they say that it is not exactly the moment of birth that brings this right. It is the moment of recognition as a child by the father that would help the case. So still, this is still open to interpretation because some scholars are still interpreting this. But one way or another, it is clear that it's a very strong recognition of the right since the moment that their children are considered children from that father or mother.
Yeah, and so specifically, the court states, right, it is the status of the child as such that constitutes the basis for acquiring that citizenship. And so, how does that decision directly affect descendants who were born and or reside abroad?
Well, this is very important for these citizens because it's a whole recognition of their rights. There is no question of this link that was supposed to be proven, and some courts requested to show an effective link. The Constitutional Court recognizes here that Article 1, when there's the notion of people, doesn't mean at all that there is a danger to sovereignty by recognizing citizens abroad. On the contrary, there is a more open interpretation of a whole cultural and family community of Italians abroad that are part of what is an Italian.
So I know the judge in Bologna, right? He asked specifically when he, in the case that led to this constitutional court challenge. Sorry, we're sitting outside. Um, so we'll have a little bit of barking and a little bit of motorcycles because we're in Spain and it's loud. Uh, so the Bologna judge had specifically asked the attorney in the case, hey, do these descendants, of which I can't recall the number of descendants in that specific case, but it was a large number of descendants, have they been to Italy? Have they visited? Do they live here? Do they speak the language? What is their connection, right? And what did the judge say about those questions? Do we need to prove, do we need to show that we have that link of language, visits, living in Italy? What did the judges say about this?
Well, first, you don't have to prove anything at all because this is not any requirement for uh, having this right to claim citizenship. Most important of all is the fact that this notion of link and cultural unity is now a little bit out of fashion because the Constitution grants a more open and multicultural notion of Italianness. it's people may feel they are Italian in a different way. So that is protected by the Constitution, which protects the rights of minorities.
Excellent. And so the Constitution protects our right from birth. It does not require anything additional. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's right.
And so, what, I guess, with these questions, right, and this decision, does that mean that now, if I fall outside of this new converted decree law, does this constitutional court decision mean that I'm ready to file my case with greater security, or is there still a great risk?
I think it is very clear that you have greater security because you have more constitutional arguments. However, it doesn't mean that the decree is totally over. So you can have both judges that could still interpret that the decree is valid. However, you also have more arguments, constitutional arguments, to secure your rights because they already have secured the right to not apply retroactivity or the right to have an imprescriptible right of citizenship for those who are already born.
So does that mean that I can take my case to the consulate?
Well, the consulates are still very inflexible. It is much safer to go through the court because the court is the one who has interpretation room for interpreting the law according to the Constitution.
That's right. And so the consulates right now are still under orders from the ministry through the circulars and through the converted decree law that the consulates can only consider cases that do not fall within this new decree if they had a booked appointment prior to March 27. That does not mean that you were on the wait list. That means that you had a prior booked confirmed appointment. And so that's a challenge for some people because we know that the consulates are very difficult to be able to get an appointment with. Now, we work in the comunes too, and so I can talk a little bit to this. I have been taking cases to the comune. We actually have a couple of applicants that are currently in Italy going through this process, but they fall within the decree because right now it is very clear that the comune employees cannot challenge this law. They must follow 2 generations, no naturalization within that 2 generations, or all of the little asterisk items. Right. Parent lived in Italy for 2 years post recognition before the child's birth, moved back to Italy, child spent time in Italy. There's a whole host of rules there that are very confusing and honestly, kind of not worth hassling with at this point. If you don't fall within the new converted decree law 74/2025, right now is not the right time to try to apply directly by moving to Italy. There's alternatives, going through court, getting a visa, and going that way. If you have that booked appointment, going to the consulate. But, it looks like right now, the best option is the courts because these judges do have this discretion. And so, Guillermo, have we seen judges acting on this discretion?
Yes. Well, we've seen, for example, the Court of Campobasso exercising this discretion. And we also have seen how the Court of Turin, the Court of Torino, referred a constitutional question to the Constitutional Court, which will be heard for next year. And this is very important because they have used this right to question the constitutionality of the new law and challenge it. Additionally, there are some judges of the lower courts that what have done is directly enter and interpret the law. And this is also very curious because, for example, in Palermo, we saw some judges, the same judge having 2 cases heard. In one of them, it accepted everything. In the other, it only partially accepted and recognized those who fell within the decree, which is may sound a little rare, but take into account that not lawyers present cases in an equal way. So depending on how much you prepare your case, how good your arguments are, how varied and how systematic they are, you may have bigger chances to be successful, even with the same judge.
Yeah, and so this is a really interesting situation, right? And I know I spend a lot of time in the subreddit. Shout out to those mods over there; they do a great job over on Reddit sub Yore Sanguinis. And this is a case that a lot of people have talked about. We have followed Judge Lanza in Palermo. Full disclosure, my family is their case is being heard in September. I am recognized, my daughter is recognized, my siblings, my son, my grandchildren are not. And so they are going to the courts in Palermo. And so we've been watching those courts. And here was a situation where two cases came before Judge Lanza. Both had family within the cases that fell outside of the decree. And in one case, the attorney made the argument that was compelling enough that the judge took the entire family, even the members of the family that fell outside of that decree. In the other case, the attorneys made a very different argument, and so the judge went ahead and recognized only the people that fell within that decree, within the two generations, and did not, they rejected the family members that fell outside of that decree. And so, your attorney matters. Having an attorney that knows your case inside and out and is going to make the best argument for your family is what makes a difference, right? And so talk a little bit about our process, at what we do here at Viamonde, right? You are our legal liaison. You are actually a Spanish attorney because we do also work in Spain, but you oversee our Italian attorneys. And so talk a little bit about how your legal department interacts with our document department.
So I think it is very important to use all the experience that our document people have into the viability of documents. We provide the best documents with the best quality. That is very important to provide a clear and structured case.
And so let me stop you there. What does that mean? That means that your documents are error free, right? We know from speaking to judges, sitting in on symposiums, that judges want clean cases that they don't have to question. So that means that we're sticklers for perfection. We're going to make sure that your documents, Giuseppe moved to America, he became Giuseppe with an I, as the case in my family, or he became Joseph. We're going to clean that up and make sure that the judges don't have a problem with that, right? And so as you're preparing documents, is your legal team looking over these documents, checking in throughout the process?
Yes, everything is looked like with a magnifying glass, especially because in the last months, the judges are looking to these details more profoundly than they have ever done. So that also adds an extra layer of care that is necessary. Additionally, we compare existing jurisprudence, existing similar cases, and try to anticipate any existing problem that the judge might pose.
And so then talk to me a little bit about how our attorneys are framing these arguments. Are they going in with a one-size-fits-all argument and every case is filed in the same way? Or because we have three different attorneys, are they personalizing it? Or are they looking at the cases independently, individually? What's the difference?
Well, I think it is very important to consider every case on an individual basis so that you take into account all the different characteristics so that you are more careful and see how each personal situation is different and how these may be affected. So there is no case that is a copycat of the next. So therefore, the arguments have also to be adapted to each individual situation. Now, that is what, in general, all of our attorneys are doing in their own special way. And then we also check them to see how that it fits.
Great. So does that mean that if I have my documents ready, maybe I've been working with Viamonde, maybe I've been just, DIYing my way along this, Does this mean when my documents are ready that I can file with greater security based on this new recent decision?
Yes, well, this recent decision is always safer. However, a good document review is so necessary to ensure that everything fits. So
Great.
I think it's a good combination because yeah, you maybe you are very hopeful about the new situation, but you have to check every detail.
Excellent, excellent. And so when building out these cases, right, they have multiple generations. And Sherry, thank you. I see that you're asking this question again here, and we've talked about this on email, but I want to clarify this one more time. When putting together the cases and listing who's involved in that case and who the principals are, um, does the order matter uh, the way the the applicants are listed? Does that make a decision? Does that make it different? If we would have listed the first generation closest, would they have gotten a sooner court date, or would they get a more preferential treatment because they were closer to the Lira?
No, it's the courts are very strict on this. They receive the cases on a time basis. So the ones that are registered before are dealt with earlier. Of course, sometimes some cases depend also on the caseload of each individual judge, and this there may be sometimes cases that start earlier and finish later. But in general, there is no discrimination on cases. Of course, if a case is clear, maybe it gets solved uh, earlier. But in order to assign a judge or make the case hearing earlier, it doesn't play a role if what is the order in of presentation of the lira and all the other and
Right, because the case has everybody's name clearly outlined in there, right? And the attorney is going in and making that argument. They're discussing this with the judge. The judge also, in your cases, right? The judge has your documentation. The judge has the case file. What is that called? The pleading? Is that a pleading that the attorney presents? What do you call that in Italian? The case that is presented to the judge.
Può essere presentare in tribunale case.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they get whatever that was that I
Yes,
cannot pronounce.
you have the udienza. Udienza is the hearing. You can sometimes the cases are also presented in writing, depending on the preference of the judge. So this also may vary.
And so, what does the judge have in front of them? Right? I know they get the documents. They have the digital documents scanned. They also have a family tree, correct?
Right. So the clearer that this sounds, the better the order of the document, how well presented and clear is, less contradictory. This may favor our faster decision. But anyway, it all depends on the style of each judge.
Yeah. And so I think, when we're looking at cases, we don't look at things in individually. We look at it as a holistic. So this decision does benefit, right? This law does benefit anybody who has not filed yet. And so why did the court not look specifically at Decree Law 36 or the new law 74 2025 that it was converted into? Why did the court not take that up? Because this is such a hot button topic. How could they skip this?
Because all these cases were cases related to the application of the old law, and what the four courts that referred the case to the Constitutional Court did was make a question about the old law, not about the new one. Eventually, of course, the Constitutional Court may be able to have the opportunity to give an opinion of things that are included in the new law, but they cannot mention and resolve on something that they haven't been asked.
Excellent. Now, another thing that happened, right, with these four courts, and they were, remind me, Milan, Rome, Bologna, and I always forget the fourth one.
Venice.
And Venice. They stopped proceedings.
Yes.
And so processes stopped first at those four courts, and then we saw other courts stopping processes, stopping decisions, holding to see what the outcome was. What happens now? What did the court say about these stopped cases?
Well, now they have to restart the process because now everything is clear. So the judge has no excuse to make a ruling and continue with the proceedings because the question is already clear. This old law is constitutional. It's constitutional 100%. So they just have to continue with the case.
Yeah, I'm going to just point out here. Hey, Sherry, these posts are public, so we're happy to answer your questions here live. But you have some specific questions, so why don't you reach out to us over email? We'll answer your questions again there because your case is filed, and we do want to make sure you have this information. I know we went back and forth, so let's set up a one-on-one call and really go over these. That way everybody is not involved in your personal case. We like to protect everyone's privacy there. If you do have questions, we're going to have time here to answer your personal questions. We want to keep it a little bit more protected for your privacy. So please don't give us super specifics. We don't want names. We don't want dates, that type of thing. But please ask your general questions. If you can frame them in a way that protects your privacy, that would be really awesome. Thank you. So what the new Constitutional Court challenge came from Torino. That case is going to be held in February. It looks like that's when the date was set. How soon after that can we expect a decision?
Well, if we take, for example, when was the hearing of this Bologna constitutional question, the hearing was in 24th of June, and the decision was 1 month later. So it might be reasonable to think that by the end of March, some decision could be, or maybe April. So by spring, for sure, some decision should be reached.
Great. So what happens if this decree is declared unconstitutional?
If the decree is ruled unconstitutional, then all pending cases should be interpreted according to the old law of the law of 1992, and then this decree would be totally removed. It is also possible that one part of it would be declared unconstitutional and not all, and then that part of the decree would be not used, would be inapplicable in court.
Right. And so if it were declared unconstitutional, can we expect potentially new laws?
Oh, yes. The government is losing no time. So I think they have a whole list of possible measures, and they could make like a 2-year time frame to allow people to exercise their rights. And they would make probably like a removal of citizenship intent while giving a time frame of 2 years to apply. And if that was the case, it would be necessary to have all your documents ready to file immediately with an avalanche of cases. So the earlier the better to file the case.
Yeah, and that's something that's kind of interesting, right? Because as soon as this decree law dropped on March 27th, with no warning to anyone, in fact, not even foreign members of the different Italian citizen committees abroad knew about this, even though by law they are required to be a part of these discussions and decisions, right? So this was done under the cover of night. But what happened was interesting. And so, Guillermo, during that emergency decree period, we had talked a lot about the sort of funny business that was going on, that the legislatures were advancing additional bills.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. What was going on?
Well, that was incredible. So you have an emergency decree that passes through Parliament, and at the same time, the Parliament was already having a law project dealing with exactly the same material. And this is not only this project, there is also another project for the centralization of La Farnesina that is still in the process of being enacted as a law. So they have like a lot of projects going on that are still unfinished and waiting for what happens. And then they will move and make it a little different to adjust to the situation.
Right. And so one of those new laws was this centralized office for Farnesina. and that would remove the consulates from the system. And so typically what needs to happen is, if you're going to strip away rights, you have to give a advance notice period, and you have to say, anybody that wants to apply for this, anybody that wants to exercise this right, needs to exercise this right by a certain date, right? We saw this when in 1992, Iure Sanguinis, dual citizenship, for Italians to hold dual citizenship and not lose their citizenship automatically upon acquiring a second citizenship, had a window. And they could very easily, not automatically, but very easily reacquire their citizenship. And right now we have, again, this window. We have this window with reacquiring citizenship if you lost it prior to 1992. It, in theory, is supposed to be a very simple declaration that you make at the consulate. In fact, that is not the case. We're dealing with a couple of clients trying to help them navigate that process. Just the same as right now, there is a window for just about 1 year to register your minor child if you are already recognized, right? And so the thinking in legal circles is this will be declared unconstitutional, but very quickly the legislature is going to hit back with one of these new laws they've been working on, these law projects that Guillermo spoke about. And so if that happens, they cannot go back retroactively. They cannot say, we're taking away your rights. You were already born as of this day. We're not taking away your rights. But you only have 2 years to exercise your rights. Well, this is going to be a run on the banks, right? This is a run on the courts. And so this is why it makes sense. And legal scholars are saying this. This is not a bring us your business type of thing. Believe me, everybody has plenty of business. There's still plenty of people that do qualify, but this is a realistic approach, because especially for our team, we have family members that are affected by this. We have friends that are affected by this. Not only our clients are affected by this. And so our advice is, get your ducks in a row, get your documents, get things ready to go. If your case is strong, if everything comes together before the Constitutional Court hearing in February, well, then file. Reserve your place in line, because if this law, and it looks like this law will at least partially be declared unconstitutional, there's going to be a run on the courts, because the legislature is waiting in the wings to try something new. And so if Italian citizenship recognition, if this is something that's important to you, if this is, a part of your life plan that you're thinking about, you want to be able to exercise your rights, you want to be able to move to Italy, to Europe, and be card-carrying Italian, it makes sense. Put your documents together, get in this line, because things could move very quickly if this is declared unconstitutional. And as we saw from this recent decision, the judges were very clear. We are Italian citizens at birth when our parent recognizes us, right? When our parent says, yes, you are our child, therefore it is passed. And so that's what's really important. I want to stop here and answer a couple of questions. Let me scroll back. Excuse me, I'm kind of blind. So, Laura Marini, did we say that the pre-existing appointment with a consulate is beneficial? Yes. Now, where it's not beneficial is if you have that minor issue. Okay, so what they're saying is, if you had an appointment prior to March 27th, they're going to honor the old rules. But what they leave out, and what we are seeing in practice, is they're only honoring the old rules from the October minor circular to March 27th. So it's that little bit of window. So if you have that minor issue, they're still rejecting, and we are getting minor rejection cases every single week, especially from the Miami consulate. So I will tell you, if you are with the Miami consulate, if you're with the Houston consulate, you're probably going to get rejected if you applied in 21, 22, 23, 24. and your case had a minor issue, they're probably going to reject you because we are seeing
Yes.
that every single week, and our attorneys are taking
Yes.
those cases. We can talk a little bit about that, but let me get back to these questions. But Laura Marini, yes, if you have a pre-existing appointment, keep it. Do not listen to that big Facebook group and cancel your appointments. Keep your appointments. They are wrong. They are dead wrong every time. Keep your pre-existing appointment. I would say even if you have a minor issue, it doesn't hurt to go in and talk to them. Don't give them your documents if you have the minor issue and they're going to immediately reject you, because then you're going to have to wait for the rejection before you can file the court case. But if you fall within that October to March 27th window, go for it, okay? Next question. What about 1948 cases and naturalizations of grandparents? So 2 questions there. S.S. Olson. What about 1948 cases? I see this all the time on socials. I get asked this all the time. Are 1948 cases different than a mail line?
Well, the advantage of 1948 cases, you don't have to. They are. I think they are easier because they are not. You don't have the barrier of proving the against the queue documentation. So usually on that you have an advantage because sometimes there is a strictness in how this is checked by the judges.
Yeah, in the 1948 cases, right, they're based on a discrimination. And so,
yes.
So while they still fall under the same rules, they do have a little bit of that twist of the discrimination. But the judges can look at them exactly the same.
Yes.
So anybody that's telling you they're absolutely different is not correct. They are different, but they're the same. It's complicated. They have a complicated relationship, would be their status.
Yes.
Okay. Laura Marini, you asked that again. My mom naturalized before 1992 and before I was born. Okay, let's start there. If your parent naturalized before you were born and it was before 1992, you were not born to an Italian. That has not changed.
Yes.
That has been the law and the requirement since 1992. Okay, if your parent naturalized before you were born, you were not born to an Italian. You were born to an American or a Canadian or an Australian or a Brazilian or an Argentinian or wherever they naturalized, but you were not born to an Italian. So no, that does not enable you to apply in Italy. What it does allow you to do is apply through expedited residency. Now, when you're applying for through expedited residency, this is a naturalization process. This is not JS. This is not automatic. And so it comes with a few extra things you're going to have to do. We're working on these cases right now. I don't know how many of them we have, but we do have several of these cases. To apply by expedited residency, to apply for naturalization, the new law takes that from 3 years down to 2 years, so that's good. That's not to say you're going to be done in 2 years. What can happen is, or what will happen, you will need to apply for a visa. There is not a specific visa. This is not the UK. We do not have a direct lineage visa in Italy. You have to qualify for the elective residency, the golden visa, or a digital nomad visa or a student visa. You need to apply for some other visa, qualify, move to Italy, be able to renew that visa. That means you need to continue to meet those qualifications every year at the Questura. And I want to say something about visas. The visa is the ticket in. This allows you to enter. Once you get in, then you apply for a permission to stay. At the end of the first year, you're going to renew that permission of stay directly in Italy. You do not go back to the consulate, okay? Now, at the end of the 2 years, you're going to go to the Prefettura. This is not your local comune because this is a naturalization. You're going to go to the Prefettura for your region, and you're going to provide all of your documentation. You're going to prove that you've been living in Italy for 2 years, showing that permission of stay, showing the residency, showing that you have insurance, showing that you meet financial guidelines, showing that you have passed an FBI background check or a background check in all of the different countries that you have lived in. And that needs to be within 6 months. You need to show you have proof of insurance. I'm sorry, that's for the visa. And then you need to prove by taking a very specific language test that you pass a B1 language test. This language test is not for the faint of heart. I will tell you, I live in Italy. I've lived in Italy for 4 years. I apparently test at a B1 level. I am not a B1 level. There is no way I could pass this test. It is reading, it is writing, it is speaking, it is hard. You need to be in Italy, you need to be practicing, and this needs to be your life, is speaking Italian to pass that test. But Amanda Pike 22, that's your route, is to come to Italy on a visa and apply through expedited residency, okay? Hello, all of you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, if grandfather was 11 years old when great grandfather naturalized, that has a minor problem, right?
Yes.
So you're not going to the consulate, and you're also not going to the consulate because it's great grandfather is your lira, but your great grandmother never naturalized. That's great. Okay, so now you have a 1948 case with no naturalization, but that doesn't fall within the new law because great grandmother was born in Italy. I'm assuming that means that your grandfather was born in the US. If your grandfather was born in Italy, that's a different case. If the parent naturalized, while the minor child who was born in Italy, that does end the line because the parent made the decision. So again, it's complicated. You have a CONE that confirms no naturalization exists for your grandfather. So does that mean that your grandfather was then born in Italy and so you have a CONE? Then you would fall within the decree. I'm sorry, your question's a little bit confusing, and that's just the nature of this forum. So Nicole, if you can go ahead and email me at jennifer@viamonde.eu. Give me all those names, give me the dates, and line that up for me. I am happy to take a look at that for you personally. Okay. Johnny, you're a client of ours. Hey, thank you. We love you. You have a court case scheduled for January in Calabria. Great. Just wondering if any of the new confusing laws affect your 1948 case. Hey, again, email me. I don't know the particulars of your case off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I can't. Sometimes I do know, like, if I can understand your name or your Instagram handle, but I can't match your name up right now. So if you can just email us, I'm happy to take a look at that. Hey, Greg Bedone. Oh man, you just keep coming back. We've been chatting forever. How are you, boy? You sent me an email. Thank you for your specific situation. Excellent. So I'll be taking a look at that. I'm actually on vacation. We're actually here in Alicante, Spain right now. We've been here for about a week. And I'll tell you, we've been working 12-hour days from 8 to 8 every day, but we are on vacation, I promise. So we're not taking, we've not been answering emails as quickly because of that, because we've been working on getting a lot of cases and really handling this. So I will get to you, and I will answer that this week. I'll make sure that either myself or Jacqueline, my assistant, gets back to you right away, Greg. But thank you for sticking with us. We will definitely figure out a way to get you here, whether that's a student visa or something else. We'll find a way for you. Okay, let's see. Aunt Sassy, love that name. My grandparents naturalized in 1927 after my mother was born, but she was a minor. Do I qualify? Technically, no, because they naturalized. The rules on 7425 say that it should be parent or grandparent, and at the time that you submit your application, the parent or grandparent needs to have been Italian, solely Italian. So even if they've passed on, they needed to have been solely Italian. Now, that naturalization presents a problem. You cannot go to the consulate, but you can go to court and challenge this, because now you have the strength of this new constitutional court decision to fight back with. And so our attorneys would say, in this case, hey, Aunt Sassy, her grandparents naturalized after her mother was born, but that doesn't matter because her mother, at the time of relation, was an Italian citizen. And you cannot arbitrarily remove those rights retroactively. Doesn't happen. You cannot do this. The Constitutional Court says this. So, Aunt Sassy, you're going to court if you want to file. You're not sorry, I love saying that. You're not going to the consulate at this point, right? Yeah, Amanda, isn't that awesome? It dropped from 3 years to 2. Now let me tell you the bad part. It's going to take another 2 years to get you recognized. The Prefettura is a mess. They're even worse than the comunes, and it's going to take some time. So plan on living in Italy 4 to 5 years probably in total. Really not a bad idea. I've been living in Italy for 4.5 years now. Right. Guillermo just moved. Guillermo is my partner. He just moved to Italy in December from Spain. And yeah, living in Italy, never a bad idea how much time you have to spend there. It's a little crazy. It's a little chaotic, but
you love it.
I love it. I'm here. I'm dying to get back. I'm really anxious to get back home. So yeah, let's see what other questions you guys have. Oops. Oh shoot. Sorry. I think I just knocked somebody out of here. I'm sorry. I was trying to wave to you. Sorry about that. We want to do a 1948 case. Let's see. Caldo Slim. We want to do a 1948 case since we have our grandmother's birth certificate. You're looking for the grandfather's. Can we proceed with our granddad's birth certificate? Oh, can you proceed without your grandfather's birth certificate? I would have to look. I don't know your case off the top of my head, but probably, yeah. What we would need if it's a 1948 case is not his birth certificate, but his naturalization to prove that that line got broken through that naturalization. And so that is why we're going to the female and going that 1948 route. Okay. So definitely that birth certificate definitely strengthens it. And like I said earlier in the discussion, we're sticklers for putting together the best possible case. So if your document coordinator, if that's Maggie or Bethany or Brian, if they're saying to you, hey, we want to wait for this, that's because our legal team has told them your case is going to be better. But it's not an absolute. It really is case by case. Every single case, guys, every single case is so different. And so specific questions, please, you can email me, jennifer@viamonde.eu. Remember, I am on vacation. I don't take very many breaks, but I am slowly answering emails. So just give me a little bit of time. I will get through it. This week, I will be on 2 different ferries for 20 hours each. They don't have Wi-Fi. So there will be delays. But I will answer your questions. We get to every single one of them. Sometimes we're just a little slower during August, but we are still here. Hello. Quick follow-up. When I did a consult with your attorney, the language test was not required for expedited residency for naturalization. If your parent was born there at least, though. I'm not sure. We'll have to go back and chat about that, and I can take a look at our call. Please go ahead and email me, Amanda, and we'll go through all those steps, okay? Our conversations, remember, we say our consultations are 15 minutes. It's rare that we have a 15-minute conversation because we cover a lot of details. So the way we handle our free consultations is they are 15 minutes booked, but we have 30 minutes as a buffer between them to allow the conversation to flow naturally. If there's topics we need to cover, if there's details, if you have additional lines, if your case is complex, we don't want to rush through that. So we have that buffer, so your call could go anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes. And sometimes we need to have a follow-up call. Sometimes we need to have a second, a third call, and a couple of emails back and forth, because we're talking to potentially 100 to 140, 60 years, I can't do math right now, of different vital and civil records. Everybody's different, depending on what court, what case it is. So we will take a look at that, Amanda, and get that cleared up for you. Okay, make sure that we're all on the same page. Is a 1948 case stronger than others? No. It adds a little extra special sauce because it's a discrimination case, but no, not really. Oh, thank you. So anybody that, if you have questions, right, like I said, my email, jennifer@viamonde.eu. I'm always open for conversations and discussions around your case. I spend a lot of time on the subreddit because the moderators there do an excellent job of putting out good, sound legal advice. They have a lot of back channels to some of the best attorneys. I know Alberto Lama, our attorney, supports them and feeds them information. I know they're working on some great AMAs. We did an AMA with them. We provide them and we chat with the mods on a regular basis. They have some great information. Get out on that subreddit if you're looking for a place. Come to me, send us an email, visit our website, viamonde.eu. There's a contact us on our website. You're always welcome to contact us. We will get back to you. We do handle hundreds and hundreds of emails every week. Our goal is always 24 to 48 hours, but we are human. I work 12-hour days, but our staff does not. We have an excellent staff, but they have more sane hours. So please allow us a little bit of time, especially during August. We're trying to get to everybody, but we want to answer your questions. Parting advice. Guillermo, what's your parting advice?
Like what, for example?
Should file now? Give up? What do you think?
Well, I think you have many advantages if you file sooner instead of waiting, because there could be all kinds of administrative obstacles that could arise. While whatever you have already prepared, you always have many ways of argue that according to constitutional interpretation, your case should follow the old law and not the new one. So I think there is now like a boost in our optimism because of this constitutional ruling, and we have to use it to our advantage in the cases we are filing. So I would say, of course, it's all a question of how comfortable you are filing now. But if you are comfortable that you need to fight and you need to protect your rights, it is better to do this now than wait to a moment when there is a backlog of cases and you have to wait much longer in court.
Yeah, so there you go. Get your case prepared. If you're going DIY, we've got options for you. We're happy to take a look at those documents. Make sure that you're on right track through document reviews. If you need help putting all of your documents together, I know Maggie's been in this chat, Bethany, Brian, they've all been, well, poor Bethany. Bethany keeps trying to go through this process, but she keeps getting hit by the different law changes. So now we're looking into Croatian citizenship for her. But Maggie has been through this case, and Brian's been through this. So our team is made up of other duals who have all been through this. Now, Guillermo is Spanish. He hasn't been through it, but he did have to live through my entire process.
Yes.
So we come at this in a different way. So we're here to help you. This is personal for us as well as our business. So please let us know how we can help you. Reach out. You want those documents reviewed. If you need an alternative pathway to Europe, we're happy to help you with visas. We're actually here in Spain on vacation, but we've been also doing some property searches, which is super exciting. Homes in Spain are totally different than Italy. My mind is blown how different, yet how similar the cultures are, but homes are totally different. So we're happy to help you find your way to Italy one way or the other, but we will keep fighting for you on these cases. So please let us know how we can help you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.